To me, it means that I'm improving myself as a person, I'm helping out, and I'm giving back to other people. And really, you can't put any dollar sign on that.
It's a nice organization to belong to. Now I have friends from Falmouth to like the Berkshires.
There's a great satisfaction in knowing you've done well, even more so than someone telling you so.
There is great satisfaction that comes from being part of a group that shares traditional values, that believes in the brotherhood of man, and in doing good works just for the satisfaction of doing them. That's what it means to be a Mason.
Masonry in Wyoming has a long and honorable tradition. The first meeting took place at a wagon train on July 4th, 1862 at Independence Rock, also known as the Register of the Plains. Prior to 1862, Freemasonry flourished in the colonies.
During these early years, many of the nation's most famous patriots were Masons. Men such as Washington, Hancock, Revere, and Franklin were all Masons. Many of the patriots who participated at the Boston Tea Party were believed to be Masons. And others, such as Dr. Joseph Warren, who was a Grand Master, sacrificed their lives at Bunker Hill to preserve our freedom. Masonry dates back to the late 14th century and flourished during the Middle Ages, when guilds of Freemasons traveled throughout Europe, building the great Gothic cathedrals. Apprentices were taken in and taught the craft by master masons, who passed on the secrets of the trade. As building declined, the guilds began to accept members who were not actual stonemasons. From these roots evolved Masonry as we know it today.
Masons identified their work by symbols that they carved onto the stones. They identified themselves by certain things they said and did, signs and tokens, when they entered a lodge or came to a building site and introduced themselves as workmen. This was carried forward into modern times by certain signs and tokens and words and manners in which people identified themselves as Masons.
I guess that's where we get some of the questions about the secrets of Masonry. It's not a secret organization, but there are some secrets, and those are parts of the traditions that have been passed down from generation to generation.
That tradition of trust and confidentiality has been important throughout the history of Masonry. The values that were important to Masons then are just as important today.
One of the important features of Masonry today, I think, is that it still holds to what might be called old-fashioned traditions and standards, and it teaches its members to act right in their dealings with one another. And some people have said that maybe that's religion. Well, we would say it certainly is basic to religion, but Masonry is certainly not a religion.
Well, it's really people of every country, every sect, every opinion. There are people of every religion. And their common goal is that they want to improve themselves and they want to improve those around them.
When I first applied to the lodge, it was primarily through a man that had worked for us. I had a past master that was working for me. He was the bookkeeper, and I was just interested in it and didn't really know that much about it when I applied. So I applied and went through and found out a lot.
I was aware of a number of people who were members, and never really got around to asking. I was not aware that you have to ask to be a Mason.
I had to ask the question to find out about Masonry, because Masons don't solicit for membership.
If you feel you would like to be a member, well, then you may come forth. And all of the Masons that have ever joined have come forth on their own and asked the question. That's a basic principle.
Air Parsegan and I were like father and son. He was so good to me. I was the first guy he brought to Northwestern. My senior year at Northwestern, I was invited to quite a few of the bowl games, and I sit down with Eric because, like I said, he's like my dad. And Eric said, "Ron, the only game I really want you to go to is the Shrine game, the East-West Shrine game in San Francisco." I go to San Francisco, and part of the Shrine program was to go through the hospital. And I went through the Shriners Hospital, and I was devastated. And then I saw the love that they gave to the kids, and that's where I am. And that's when I proceeded to make up my mind I want to be part of the family.
Most important thing is the people.
It's the people that I have met.
Just a great bunch of guys.
You meet hundreds of guys that you probably never would have met before.
Who becomes a Mason? Accountants, businessmen, teachers, contractors, anybody and everybody. They come from all walks of life and all levels of income. And in the Masons, they're all equal.
Teddy Roosevelt visited his own lodge while he was president. He attended the meeting, enjoyed it thoroughly, and at the conclusion of the meeting, he rose and asked permission of the worshipful master to speak. And at the conclusion, he turned and thanked the worshipful master, who was his gardener on his estate in Long Island. It doesn't make any difference whether a man's a bricklayer or a physician. They meet on an equal ground and on equal footing within that lodge room.
The thing about the ritual work, the actual work that's done in a lodge, is that it's the same work that's been done for hundreds and hundreds of years. Every Mason, no matter where you go, has had the same traditions and gone through the same degree work. And that's one of the things that holds us together and really makes us brothers.
Organize the lodge.
There are just a lot of things that you don't know take place behind the scenes, and the only way you can find out really is by becoming active in it.
Freemasonry is built on three basic tenets: brotherly love, relief, and truth. Brotherly love is the practice of the Golden Rule. Relief is charity for all mankind, and truth is honesty and adherence to the cardinal virtues. Masonry teaches its basic lessons through allegory and symbol, using the traditional tools of Masonry: the gauge, gavel, square, level, plumb, compasses, and trowel. The newly admitted Mason is instructed in the principles of his craft through ceremonies that take him through a series of degrees. The ceremony takes the Mason on a symbolic journey, expressed in a complex tale based on the building of King Solomon's temple. The working tools represent the moral lessons taught during the three ceremonies or degrees of admission. In the first degree, which uses the gavel and the gauge, the entered apprentice is symbolically reminded of his dependence on others and his subordination to God. The square, the level, and the plumb are the working tools of the second degree of fellowcraft, which reinforces the central moral message of Masonry. In the third degree, that of the Master Mason, the trowel and all of the other tools are used to teach the candidate to reflect on the end of life and the value of fidelity to the promises he has given. Once the candidate has been raised to the third degree, he can move on to other branches of Masonry, such as the Scottish Rite, York Rite, and Shrine.
The lessons which are taught in Masonry are universal. In Japan, on the altar, were not only the Holy Bible, but also the Gita, the Quran, books of all religions, and Masonry does not discriminate. As long as a man believes in a supreme being, he can become a Mason and meet on the level with all other Masons.
In Masonry, we talk a lot about square dealing and meeting on the level. As a businessman, I can relate to that. I enjoy a square deal. I like to give one and I like to receive one. And that's really what Masonry is all about.
There are over 50 lodges in Wyoming, from Evanston to Newcastle, from Cheyenne to Cody. The local lodges, also called Blue Lodges, each have their own character. Cheyenne Lodge Number 1 is the oldest lodge in Wyoming, and it has been functioning continually for over 125 years.
Masons in the United States contribute probably something approaching $2 million a day for the benefit of their fellow man.
The Masons are the founding sponsors of the Shriners Burns Institute, the Shriners Hospital for Crippled Children, the Scottish Rite Masonic Museum of our National Heritage, the Knights Templar Eye Foundation, and schizophrenia research programs. The Shriners Burns Institute is dedicated to treating severely burned children. It's funded through the activities of Shrine Masons and offers its services without charge. In both treatment and research, Shriners Burns Institutes have been leaders in advancing the state-of-the-art of burn care.
It's very traumatic care, it's intensive care. And to watch them walk out the door for the first time gives everybody a great sense of pride and accomplishment.
From hospitals to museums, the Masons seek to enrich the lives of those around them.
The Museum of Our National Heritage was started by the Scottish Rite Masons as a bicentennial project. We feature changing exhibitions dealing with American history and culture, but also a few permanent exhibitions. We have one gallery devoted to our Masonic collection of materials and another exhibit that features Lexington's participation in the Revolutionary War.
You bring it down to the most basic level, why do we do this type of thing? And for me personally, it's a very selfish reason. It makes us feel good.
Everyone gets the same pay, and all the pay comes right here.
Those are the things that excite me more than anything else. When people give from their hearts. I mean, they give deep.
The truths you learn as a Mason are personal and private, but the values echo the past and are something you carry with you for the rest of your life.